back to baseline. I probably used a bunch of words there in those descriptions that we could pick apart and really ask the question of, is that the right word? And it's really just the word that I'm using today based on listening to other people and the words they use and having to make these decisions about the words that we use in Wwise. Like, what are we going to call that? Well, okay, let's figure out what the right word is, or at least right enough right now.
Yeah.
And let's just try to move forward towards a shared language to talk about these things, because it took me a long time to really build a mental image of it. And that's tricky. You must feel the same way with this exchange of information between a game engine and choreographer. Like,
yes,
there's an abstraction there. There's a language there to describe that you kind of got to make up as you go along.
We did, yeah. So the name choreographer actually came out of, we had that problem. Initially, it was like, I think the very first prototype of choreographer was called Beat Charter, because it was just a way to just create markers along an audio timeline, author them, not just kind of have them created by a sound person, but by a level designer or a programmer can go in and just click on the audio where they want and then have something happen related to that.
Yeah.
And it came like we had to sit there and be like, what the heck do we call this if we're going to make a product out of it? And it eventually was like, we're kind of doing choreographing the audio in a way, and the visuals, and so then that kind of flowed from there. But then even when we're trying to tell people like this is what it does, we start running into problems with the established language. The first thing that we had a problem with, and this was the first term we had a problem with was event, which in the games industry is extremely overloaded. It's used everywhere because an event is effectively some sort of signal from one system that other systems might be listening for.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, like, at me as a junior or senior in college in like 2004, 2005, and having these ideas about what can we do with audio in games, and trying to marry and bring the interactivity of games and the flexibility of audio for whatever that can be together in a way that can affect a player. This is all, by the way, stuff that we're trying to do with cinema. But now 15 years later. But the whole question was like, okay, well, what I'm really looking for is there information that I can just set in the audio and then I can get an event from the audio playback? So the first thing I did was looked at, what are the FMOD, what is the FMOD? There we go. Is the technology available at the time? There was like FMOD Core, the low level API, FMOD LL
FMOD EX.
Yep. And they had the low level thing that was free. It was the UI that was, and it's sort of exactly how it works today, I think. They may have taken Core and kind of not stopped putting it out for other people to use, but back then I looked at their API and said, oh, look, events, great. I will be able to, you can do this. And I moved forward many years and then started looking back at it and went, wait. These events are the other way around. It took me a while to kind of get the understanding that an event to FMOD or Wwise is an event that they handle. It's a signal to those engines that they should do something. It's a game event that they need to respond to, and that will change the audio mix or the trigger a new sound effect or a change in the sound effect, reverb or an adjustment, all of those kinds of things. So for us, when we said, well, we're doing events too, we had to be really careful about our language for events because they go the other way. Our system, the choreographer, takes events from the audio and sends it back to the game engine. Which isn't something that Wwise was built to do, that FMOD was built to do. There are a little bit of kind of allowances for some of that in both of the both those engines.
Callbacks maybe?
Yeah. But the granularity of the callbacks is difficult and their use is minimal, and
Yep.
their usability is a little bit lacking right now.
Sure.
And so we decided to build that's what Choreographer does, is it kind of solves that space and says, okay, if I want to get information back, and we've been working with AudioKinetic and, you know, FMod and a few other, at least in Unity, music engine or audio engine teams to create integrations where we can work with that stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, and working with you, and when we first met, I think we started talking about it, and I described this whole thing, and you told me that you had written this game developer magazine article where you interviewed people talking about this. And do you remember what you called
crossing the two-way street?
Right. That was the language that you had come up with to
Yeah.
describe that type of situation. Because prior to your article, there, as far as I'm aware, there was no one had any kind of special term for sending information from the audio engine back to the game to affect the game in a certain way, right?
Yeah.
And your article, I think you interviewed 2 or 3 different people and profiled some games where they did that.
Yeah, there were some good examples of that. The article's still available through Game Dev Mag, which I think is
UBM or something.
Well, yep, UBM. And I just want to shout out to Morla. Hey, thanks for the Titanfall. Exactly, that's the giant robot game with all the wave files in it. But yeah, so this article is still out there. It's still available through UBM's Game Dev Mag. It might even be the GDC Vault, a public-facing GDC Vault access. And I published it as part of my 2-book Tales from the Technical Sound Designer series. So, fun fact.
Yeah, for those who are looking, I have this still saved on my desktop from our conversation years ago. It's June, July 2012. The article is called Crossing the Two-Way Street.
There we go. I still don't know if it accurately represents the situation, but again, I've really thought you put a lot of thought into the word proactive audio as a way to describe it with a little bit more action, right?
Yeah. So to that point, what we did, and this is our experience with finding a name and you know, naming something and giving a way for us as professionals to talk about it, you know, not just us to market it, but to talk to other people about, hey, this is a technique you can employ in your game, and now you can use this term. But yeah, we looked at a lot of people talk a lot about interactive audio, and what they mean usually is by that is audio that reacts to the game. The game engine is doing something, player has an input, and the audio engine responds in time, most of the time instantaneously to that event. But for us, from in the developer's kind of point of view, that's the audio engine reacting to the rest of the game. It's a reactive audio system.
Yeah, another interpretation of that could be that something is coming at me and swinging a giant sword.
Yeah.
It is attempting to interact with me, and as a interaction with that, I will play some audio.
Yep. Yep. So, but here we have another problem that we face in the industry of term overloading, right? Where like interactive, and I mean, the quintessential one in the games industry is fun, right? Fun has a crazy individual subjective definition to every single developer. And you can have very long-winded and intense conversations in the game industry about what fun is. But, you know, so this is one of those terms where, depending on the situation and who you're talking to, and in the case of the AudioKinetic manual, there is a whole section on the interactive game systems, which exactly is what you just described. It's audio for interactive simulation, which, you know, that is accurate. It's totally accurate.
Yeah.
For us, we're trying to what we're going at. So that's where the proactive part comes. It's audio affecting your game, the rest of your game.
Exactly. And you know, whether you're talking proactive,
Yeah.
interactive, dynamic, responsive, reactive,
Adaptive.
adaptive,
That's another. Yeah.
and don't get me started on immersive.
Oh gosh.
But yes, language is an imperfect art
Yep.
form.
Yeah.
And the best we can hope for is that between us, we can understand each other when we discourse, right?